Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I have a clean and simple card with just some pizzazz added to it by some cutting and some sponging. So we're going to be using the By the Dock stamp set that we're going to be able to play around with for at least another year. It's carrying over. So the By the Dock right now is bundled at a 10% discount. It has with great dies in it to cut out the dock and the boat and the oars and the frog and the bird and just so many things. So it is bundled right now at a 10% discount. In the new catalog it will be separated, so you won't get that 10% discount, but it is carrying over. So it's on, if it's on your wish list, it's awesome. And I actually am going to add in these beautiful pines here from the Mountain Air bundle. And the Mountain Air bundle also is carrying over. Awesome! So we're going to be using those two on this card, but it's a very simple card. The most difficult part of this card was actually getting the right measurements to be put on the layering borders here. So I did all the work for you. How many times have you seen a really cool card that you like and then you're like, oh, how do I figure out all the measurements? They're just perfect. So I figured out those measurements for you, and let's get started. I used, excuse me, Garden Green as my card base, and that's just a half sheet of your cardstock, and it's 5.5 by 8.5, and we're scoring it at 4 1/4. All the measurements, all my products, all colors, everything I used will be on underneath the YouTube description. You'll see all the materials I used and the measurements, but they'll also be over on my blog. At the end of my description on YouTube, it says visit my blog here or visit my blog at, and you can press that link. You'll be sent there for many more pictures and any other tips I want you to see there. So we're using Garden Green as the card base. Now we're going to layer crumb cake on the outside, and that's just a 5 1/4 by 4, which is also the same size as the inside. It gives you a nice 1/8 inch border around your card. And then we are going to be putting on soft suede so that you can see it coming through when we cut the paper and around the border here. And this soft suede is cut to 3.5 by 4 3/4. So 4 3/4 by 3.5, because when we go to cut this into panels, I wanted a 1/16 of an inch in between them. So I figured out all the math for you, so it's going to be really easy. We're going to be sponging onto this Whisper White, and this Whisper White is 3 3/8 by 4.5. So 4.5 by 3 3/8. Now we're going to be doing some sponging. I played around with this card. I tried to use Balmy Blue as the card base and then color on top of it. It looked okay, but not really that great. So I decided to just go ahead and do a nice light Seaside spray sponging over it, and then I would stamp on it, then I would color. So that's what we're going to do. So we're just going to use whatever blending tool you like to use. If you like to use sponges or a brayer, I use these makeup brushes I got online somewhere. So we're just going to get a little bit of ink on there, and we're going to kind of go off our paper first because we don't want, and see, we're just going to put, and I know we're probably going to have a little bit of movement here on the camera, and you just kind of go off and then on to your sponging. This is a nice light color, so I'm a little more, it's a little bit easier not to get a big blob on there. And the more you layer ink on your cardstock, the better it is. So when you're doing it, you just get like a little layer, and the more ink you put on it, the easier. And I'm so sorry if the camera is jumping around here. My stand is a very good stand. It's just, you end up moving it. So I'm just getting a nice layer of a soft blue. And Seaside Spray was the beautiful blue to use for that. So as you can see, I'm just layering on some blue, Just get a little more on there. Take a little bit off, like not really off, but start at the off part of my page. And like I said, the more ink that gets on your paper when you're sponging, the easier it moves around. So we're just getting a nice, some of the other cards I did using the By the Dock, I just used blue cardstock as my background. But on this one, I just wanted to do some stamping and coloring. So as you can see, I've got a nice blue on there. So I'm just going to close up my ink pad, click it there, set it aside, and then we are going to do our stamping. So I'm going to use Memento Black because I am stamping with, here we go, because I'm stamping, I'm going to be coloring with my blends. The blends are not retiring out of the catalog, so if you had a heart attack when you saw that, we're just reconfiguring the numbers and selling them as combos in the new catalog. So here we go. We just took some Memento Black and we inked up our dock. Now I took the dock and I had it coming off of the edge. It has kind of a broken edge here, like a jagged edge, but just make sure you get that off of the page. Now let me see, let me get my head straight here. And then I just stamped my dock. There we go. We've got our dock, and then we want to pop our boat on there. Where's Mr. Boat? There he is. If you could see how many blocks have stamps on them right now on my desk. I'm working on a couple different projects. So then I want to put, looks like I got a little fuzzy here. Let me lift this up. I have a little fuzzy thing there. So let me do some operation here and get that fuzz off. There we go. I was afraid if I pulled it with my finger, I would just get black right across there. Okay, so let's get back to what we're doing, Cindy. Let's get our boat on there. And I want to kind of get my boat onto the rope here, but if you don't, on my card, I just drew a little bit more rope. So let's just see if we get that boat on there. Stamp that boat down. Pretty darn close, but if that's not close enough for you, just take one of your journaling pens and just kind of see that it's attached to it. Okay, so there we've got our stamping done there. And why don't we go ahead and do the stamping here? I had this open space up here and I put a bird like I did on the inside of the card here, but it just kind of competed with this little birdie. And as you can see, this is a very light blue on here, so the bird kind of still does resemble being white. But I did come in with my color lifter, and I know it's not supposed to take ink off, but it really did kind of lighten up my bird from the actual stamp pad ink I put on there. So now we're going to add a little bit of color here to it. So I am going to color in the boat. So what I did, well, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do my brown first. So on my boat, I used the light soft suede, and I just did the inside of the wood. And you can see with the light blue of the Seaside Spray, you're still seeing a true color of blends coming through. And let me see, this gets to be brown. There we go. And brown here. And I love when I get a stamp set that I'm like doing a class with, and so I get to use all the different dyes and all the different stamps and different techniques. And this one was just a nice, simple coloring. Let's just do our dock while we're at it. And then we're just gonna do it in soft suede as well. And what's nice about just having the stamp, didn't have to do any die cutting, though I love having dies. Adds everything up. And I'll be doing another video using some dies from this set. But right now we're just actually having fun just coloring. But then once I colored it, I was like, I need something more, I don't know, to add to the card. So that's where I came up with making a tri-panel card. Okay, let's just get a little bit of texture in here by getting a little bit of color. There we go. Okay, so we've got, oh, we almost forgot we. See, I lump you guys right in there with me because I feel like I can feel you here with me. Okay, so there we got our soft suede done. And then I wanted to just add a little color to the card. So I'm going to do, this is my dark cherry cobbler. My other card I'm going to show you with a video, I used real red. It had a totally different look, even though the colors are very similar. And then we just put, like as I said, I did stamp this on a balmy blue, and you can color on your colored cardstock. There's no doubt about that. But my daughter said, I don't like that. I said, okay. So then I came up with this. So I'm just getting my little tiny strips here. This is where your prayer life comes in handy here. Help me get that in there, Jesus, okay? There you go. Yay! And then we gave a little seat here and colored in this seat. Get that little white part and colored in this seat. I'm going to turn it this way. And there we go. And then I just see a little bit of white peeking through here on my boat. And I think I got all of my dock. Okay, so there we have our coloring done. Very simple. So now we want to put these pine trees up here. So what I did is looked all over, and I'm using garden green, looked all over for my long one of these acrylic blocks, could not find it. And so I had to get out this big, humongous one and got ink on it. Okay, so I've got garden green on there. Hopefully I'm not going to drop this. And I just want to tippy toe up here and get some green stamped up at the top. There we go. And it just gives us a depth there. Even if it comes down in towards the, like it's a little bit, as you can see here, I brought my dock up a little further. It's, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect because it just gives the illusion of the depth of the card. Okay, so let's, you know what, while I have this paper out here, let's go ahead and do this inside here. So I just did a little bit of the ground here and a little frog. So let's just go ahead and do that. Whoop. Where did I put that? There's our white. Okay, so what I did there is I just took the ground that I put over there and I inked it up with my memento. I saw which way it was going and I kind of just put it right down there in the corner, knowing because it's like kind of a smaller stamp, it wasn't going to reach down there. So once again, I just took my journaling pen and I just got a little handy with it and just kind of, wow, look at me, the artist. Okay, get it a little darker. Okay, so there we go. And then I just colored in my, I used light mossy meadow, and I just gave a little bit of color to these pieces of grass here along the shoreline. See, you can't even tell that was me doing that. Just put a little bit of green into there. And then I just pulled out my light crumb cake, and I just colored in like it was kind of like dirt, not necessarily sand at a lake. I don't know. We've had sand at the lake before, but I just kind of didn't want to clash the greens because it's garden green, and if it just didn't, so I just decided to make it more like a muddy bank. You know how it gets whenever you're going to get on a boat and you're afraid you're going to slip in the slick mud. And then there's a cute little frog in that set. So I'm going to put that little frog right there. So he's a cutie. And for him, I used my, I used my dark old olive for him. And I just colored him in. Get his little feet there. I think on the other card, I think I colored in the ground. And just get his little body painted up here with your blend. And then you added that on there. And then, of course, there's a little rock here. So I just took some light smoky slate and added a little more color to some of the rocks around the shore there. And then just take your little bird and ink him up and put him up in the corner. And since the bird is white, you don't have to color. There we go. So we've got the inside of our card done. So let's just add that to the inside of the card here. I'm going to remove that scratch paper, and I'm going to open my snail and get some snail on there and put it on the inside of our card. So even though the greens don't really match, they're not, I just feel like if I would have colored this green, it would have clashed a lot with the green. So there we got a cute little inside. And like I said, this is going to be bordered on here. Let's just put it on so it's out of the way and it is done. So we're going to pop that on. That's a nice easy measurement, and it really like pops out on the card. Just gives it a nice natural look to it. And then we have soft suede that's going to go on there. But now I'm going to show you our colored panel. Where, oh my goodness, where did I put that? Here it is. Oh, got me nervous there. Okay, so I set it up. So this piece of paper, as I said before, is 3 3/8 high, and the width of it is 4 1/2. So if we divide 4 1/2 into 3, we have 1 1/2, 1 1/2, 1 1/2. So all we're going to do is pull out our trimmer, and we're going to put the 4 1/2 inch side up against our raised portion, and we're going to go to 1 1/2. We're going to go to 1 1/2. Have our cutting blade there, and we're going to cut down. Oh yes, you took all that time to make that beautiful painted scene, and now you're cutting it. So those are in 3 1 1/2 inch sections, and then as I said, I sit and fiddled around with all the measurements so that you didn't have to figure them out, and they'll be written out for you. I always appreciate it. You see a beautiful card on Pinterest or on a blog, and then you're like, oh, I wonder what her measurements are. Sometimes I will contact people and they know them right away, but sometimes when we're designing things, we forget what we did. Okay, so this one goes here. So now what you're going to do is just make sure you have the same width on the top, bottom, and side. So because the size of the paper, if you just keep your eye that way, you're going to be fine. So it's about a 16th, well, not it's about, it is a 16th of an inch around the whole way. So I always do the left side, right side, or right side, left side, whichever, but I do them those two first. So come back over here and do that same thing. Get a 1/16 of an inch the whole way around. Then it's easier to put this one in. And then you'll just have, you can play around. And then sometimes if I see it's not enough space, I'll move it out a little. Like I could probably move this one out just a tiny bit, but we're not going to. So there we go. We just have a little bit of something different on the card. It's just, we could have just left it as a beautiful panel on the front that's colored, but I just really liked that cutting it into 3 equal panels gave it just a little different look to it. So then I just used my stitched shapes and used a smallest circle and stamped in cherry cobbler so that it matched with my boat there. And then I'm just going to put that onto this punched out, oh, I think it was die cut circle. I'll have that measurement there, but I'm wondering exactly how. It's 1.5. So 1.5 inches around, and you could put that up there. You could also put this down here because I see I have a little booger there, but I just think that it should go up here. So what I did here, just give it a little more texture, is I just put a little linen thread on there. And what I do with that is I just put, okay, the happy birthday's there. So I just put some dimensionals on the back, and I'm gonna kind of, I wouldn't normally put 4 on the back of here, though some people do in class. I'm like, okay, did you need 9 dimensionals on there? But this one I did put a little bit more because I want to kind of loop the linen thread in the dimensionals. And when you loop them in the dimensionals, and if you have a couple more on there, you're actually helping yourself out. Just putting, let's just put it over there. And that just gives you a little bit of dimension there. And you can then pop it on your card. Since I was a little higher on that one, I'm just gonna pop it there. And you've got your card done. So it's really just a matter of having the right measurements to make this card pop with the little 3 panels there with the soft suede poking through. So just take a look over at my blog or at the bottom of the YouTube video for the measurements, and that was the hardest part. We just did some sponging, and just look, it was just such a nice subtle blue. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at cindyleeb@gmail.com. You can always text me or call me at 724-323-2296. If I happen to make a mistake, I welcome my, I don't want to say critics, but I welcome your comments to let me know if I forgot to tell you something or you're not understanding something I have on my post. Please feel free to contact me. So we've got this beautiful card using By the Dock, and it is carrying over, and these beautiful trees were from the Mountain Air stamp set. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.